Hey, do you know that like your podcast guest spot's only about an hour of 168 hours in a given week? I want you to stop wasting these opportunities and behave more like a business owner to maximize that 168 hours that you have. So here's what I see go on. Every week, tons of podcasters go on an episode, they do an interview. They're an amazing guest. They're the subject matter expert. They have a great talk, kill it. One of those good conversations. And then at the end, nothing happens. No new clients, no results, no connections, just an hour wasted. So if this is you or if this resonates, stop. Stop wasting your time. Behave more like a business owner and maximize the value of the 1 hour guest spot that you've been given. You get 168 hours in a week. So do I. So does every business leader, every thought leader, every athlete, every performing artist. Literally everybody gets the same 168 hours every week. The difference between those that stand out from the rest is what they do with those 168 hours. Some people are really intentional about their podcast guest spot, spend time curating in advance and afterwards to maximize value. Other people, they collect appearances. The interview is only 1 hour of 168. It's only one element of the recipe that makes success. It's the other 167 hours that really matter. Now, I think most people get a podcast invitation and immediately, that'd be a good opportunity for me. I really like the audience and the host. It looks like they have a good reach, and I'm going to get in front of a lot of different listeners or viewers. Maybe you can repurpose and share some of that information on social media or announce your appearance. But then we move on, and that's it. And that's not behaving like a business owner. That's kind of liking the attention that comes without actually doing the hard work. So business owners ask two things before they say yes. First, what's the objective or the result I'm trying to create? And second, how on earth am I going to measure that? And if you can't answer both clearly, don't go be on a podcast. Don't waste your 168 hours. They're too valuable. Now, if you can, let's talk our way through it a little bit. Are you trying to generate leads? Do you have a call to action? How are you going to track that call to action? Maybe you're just trying to build authority. Do you have an amplification plan that's going to push that out to a lot of eyes and ears? Maybe it's just as simple as connecting with the host. What's your follow-up strategy to make sure you get noticed and achieve your objective? Most guests can't answer these questions. They think it seems like a good idea. It seems like good marketing, and they're absolutely right. It can be. But we're lacking the intentionality to execute. We're hoping for a result. And hope is not a plan. Business owners allocate their 168 hours based on results, based on what gets financial performance in a lot of instances, not what feels good. So how does this hit for you? Well, first, before the interview, you want to prepare like you are giving a keynote presentation. But remember, it's a conversation. More on this in a second. But how do I prepare like it's a keynote? Well, you might want to spend 3 to 5 hours listening to different episodes, doing some research on the audience, do some research on the host. I really think you've got to drill down to who is listening and what problems can you solve for those listeners. Because if you don't know who the audience is, how are you going to be able to serve them? I like to develop 3 key messages. These are based on things that will serve my objectives, but serve the audience's needs. I help try to craft real stories out of this. That story gives the illustration about my expertise. And then be sure you plan a specific call to action, not just the generic check out my website that we're all guilty of using. Give something of more strategic value to the audience so it compels them to take that action and enriches their life in doing so. This is really what's going to bring a zero value 1 hour guest spot into a tens or maybe hundreds of thousands of dollar value appearance. The homework up front is going to be key. Now, remember, we prepared like it's a keynote, but you got to show up like you're having a cup of coffee with a friend. When you hit record, you got to let it all go. You don't want to sound too rehearsed. You want to be present. You want to have a real conversation. You want to act naturally with the hosts. All this prep is going to give you the confidence so that you're in the right spot and you're delivering the right message. But the conversation is what's going to make you authentic, and that authenticity is what the audience is going to read and gravitate to. Business owners prepare strategically, but the ones that are best show up authentically to show their expertise and prove that value to the audience. And I think this being strategically authentic conversation is important. You need to do you, but your message is going to be tailored a little differently if you're talking to a bunch of C-suite executives, financial minds, as opposed to casual jeans and tennis shoes, creative minds. That message needs to be different per audience, but that does not mean you sacrifice who you are. Of course, you're going to make your points through stories. You're going to give examples and illustrations, not statistics. You're going to demonstrate your expertise so compelling through those stories that people want to work with you. They want you to help solve their problems. That's the power of using this 1 hour, the 1 hour of the ingredient in this whole journey through a podcast guest spot. You've got to be worth paying attention to, and you've got to prove that in the hour. And this may be the most important ingredient, but it's only one of the ingredients. The others are really what's going to make the value shine through. Business owners make these opportunities count because they're treating it like an investment. They have a 1 hour investment in front of them. They have an opportunity to impact or be in front of a lot of eyes and ears. How are they going to compel those eyes and ears to take action? Now, what are you going to do after the interview? That's really where I think the substance meets the road. This is the accountability piece. And before I get into it, let me give you a quick story. I went into a podcast, saw the host, didn't know much about him, but we've both done podcasting. The beginning was kind of a check the box type green room where we just, yeah, you do this, sounds good. We briefly touched on a story about intentionality. And in that intentionality, I was illustrating the personal touches that I want to bring. So we do the podcast, we share the stories, and at the end of it, both of us kind of pause and kind of at the same time say, hey, do you have a few more minutes? Do you have a hard stop? And fortunately, we both had a little bit of grace, but we made a connection through the podcast. And that's the authenticity piece. The stories, talking about the connections, talking about how we wanted to serve our client bases. That's where we built a connection. And to this day, we're still in touch and we still work together. Those are the kinds of things that I want you to illustrate with your authenticity. So I think most people think when the recording is done, their work is done. And that's just not the case. You got another 5 to 10 hours repurposing content, making social posts, blog articles, emails, quote graphics, video clips, whatever it may be. You got to get it out there because you want to take that episode and maximize what you've got and then engage. If you have a call to action and people send that email to you, you want to engage with that email. It does not want to fall on deaf ears. If you're on social and people are commenting about what you've got, be present, engage, thank them for the conversation. If you're trying to connect with the host, thank them meaningfully, both in the recording and afterwards separately. it will shine through. The audience can feel that stuff. Now, we've done all of those things, and this sets up the accountability piece, the hard part for everybody, right? How are you going to track those results? It's as simple as a spreadsheet. Appearance, call to action, result. It can be that simple. Now, if you want it to be elaborate, make it elaborate. You can have all kinds of different marketing leads, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm talking about just tracking the results in a simple way and then optimizing your behavior based on the results. If call to action 1 generates more action than call to action 2, keep using 1. Over the course of time, that may change, and that's okay. Sometimes things land hard. Sometimes you don't get the results you anticipate, but track it and use the data, because that's what business owners do. They use the data to make strategic decisions so that they can harvest more value. So here's the math, guys. If you spend 1 hour of your 168 on the interview and 0 on follow-up, you're not going to get much. But if you spend 1 hour on the interview and 10 hours maximizing the value on follow-up, now there's an actual business plan. There's an actual value proposition. There's leads, there's touches, there's engagement that's coming to you. That's what it means to behave like a business owner. I think most people think the interview is 10% or is 90% of the work and 10% of everything else, when in fact the interview is 10% of the work and it's 90% everything else. So I want you to take 3 behaviors away from this episode. First, I want you to set objectives and measure them. Before the episode, determine what the outcome is going to be, how you're going to measure it, how does it fit into your bigger picture. After, benchmark it, figure out if you achieved it or not. What do the numbers say? Is it worth your time to keep doing this? Second, prepare like it's a keynote, but remember to show up like a friend having a cup of coffee. That authenticity is going to shine through. And then third, treat the follow-ups just as serious as you do the interview. Repurpose, engage, tracking, and optimizing. That is the key after any podcast recording. So if you got a podcast that's coming up, stop treating it like a 1-hour conversation. Behave like a business owner in this deal. Maximize the value with the 168 hours that you have. Ask yourself, what's the result I'm trying to create? How am I going to prep like a keynote, but deliver like it's a coffee date? And what am I going to do afterwards to maximize that value? Because if you can't answer these questions and allocate your time appropriately, don't do the podcast. Stop wasting your time on the interview because it's not going to work. Start behaving like a business owner and maximize that 168 hours that we all have. I am Chris Papin, and I hope you found this helpful. Thank you.